Well, it's so wonderful to be back exploring the blueprints of your life with Debbi Coleen. Debbi Coleen is an amazing intuitive. She deals with her own Starseed Blueprint. We talk about astrology, numerology, and many other aspects of these so-called patterns of our lives with Debbi, and it's just a wonderful separate show from Let's Get Real series, where this one we specifically are talking about some of the Chinese astrology, Western astrology, as well as some of the other aspects that Debbi uses in her private practice. And you can get all of Debbi's information right on lgrcc.com or go directly to her own website, starseedblueprint.com. So here, let's get into this. What's going on these days, Debbi?
Well, we've been talking, and there's a lot of stuff been going on, and we've noticed things going on for other people. I just took a look today at the calendar and realized we've got about 10 days left of Jupiter retrograde, and it's in Cancer. So I was really thinking that, wow, exactly what was showing up is what's going on for me and many, many other people.
And it's April 1st right now, so that's just so April 1st, 2015 for anybody listening to this.
That's right. So, yeah, and I've noticed how these last 10 days of the retrogrades of some of the larger outer planets, like Jupiter, are really important. We can get kind of spooked or upset because we seem to be being dumped back into old stuff. And I just wanted to explain that, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, but there's a reason.
Ah, good. It's always good. It feels better when there's a reason for it.
Yes. And the reason is that when we come to the end of a retrograde, especially something like Jupiter retrograde, which is one of those big out there planets, there's a whole lot of learning, practice, learning, practice that we go through. And the last 10 days is a review of the whole, basically in Jupiter, it's about 4 months that we've been going through issues about Jupiter. So when Jupiter is not retrograde, it's really the house or the planet that sponsors expansion, exaggeration, growth that is, kind of out of control in a certain way. It's just that, and it's about fun and pleasure and
when it's not retrograde.
When it's not retrograde. But when it is retrograde, we get the control, because you can't have expansion, without some kind of control, some kind of delimiting happening. Exaggeration has to be balanced with whatever the opposite of exaggeration is.
Minimizing.
Minimizing.
Restricting.
Or reality, being real, facing facts. We can't just be party, and without some rest and, cleaning up.
Okay.
Preparation.
Okay.
So that is really kind of what's going on in the last couple months. We have had so much expansion going on in the previous time. And then, of course, you may have noticed that there has been some restriction happening the last, I believe it was since December, mid-December,
okay,
that Jupiter went retrograde. And, it's been a kind of a more serious time, especially since Saturn has also been retrograde. And Saturn is the planet that keeps us, disciplined and, in on track. And Saturn is also retrograde at this time, although it's due to go on being retrograde for a while longer. It just started mid-March, and it'll take us into the very beginning of August.
Is Saturn like the rule master kind of thing? Rules about
yeah. It's like a parental energy, often associated with the father, but it is it's also about the disciplinarian in the family, the one who's concerned about the future, but it is parental. It's not always the father. Mothers often have that role too,
right.
or caregivers. And in conjunction with Jupiter, and Jupiter this time, Jupiter is in Cancer. So Jupiter's not always about mother issues, but when it goes retrograde in Cancer, Cancer is the sign of mother energy, that nurturing parent. So anything about mother issues in our life, and the restrictions of that, coupled with the restrictions of Saturn going retrograde, this is a real parental, powerful time.
And this will go for the next 10 days?
Well, the Jupiter retrograde part with the Cancer, in the sign of Cancer, yes, it's another 10 days. And when we get to that last 10 days, it's a review of the whole time. So we're going back to December here, and probably the last 12 years of your life, because Jupiter's orbit is 12 years around the sun, and then again maybe 24 years, and then again maybe 36 years.
So there could be all these little reviews in there? Is that?
Yes. Well, when we get into a retrograde, you can basically kind of calculate the time that it takes. And so Jupiter's been about approximately 4 months. So in that 4-month time, you can kind of take your whole life and stretch it, to kind of fit it into that 4 months, and you kind of roughly, very, very roughly, revisit some of the issues that you've had about exaggeration and expansion and joyful pleasure, all the good stuff kind of thing. Mm-hmm. with the mother energy, but also the controls, so there's kind of a balance there, like what happened and what didn't happen. It's going to be different for everybody because, of course, everybody's other signs and charts quite different from each other. So the way it shows up, but there's just some general parameters around this particular retrograde. And then the last 10 days or so, sometimes for some of the really long, more outer planets like Neptune, even Pluto, it might even be a whole month. But in the case of Jupiter, I'm noticing it's about this last 10-day period as the retrograde goes direct on about the 10th of April. So I really am noticing that some behaviors and some experiences, some events, topics of conversation, other people's issues have really shown up about more like a beginning. But we're very quickly going to review all that we have practiced in these couple months, as we always do with retrogrades, because we have all sorts of learning. Everything comes up that isn't resolved, and it's like getting caught on fly paper, or wherever we have a hook, it gets caught in the hook and loop.
So what's the best way to? So what will people notice? Like that relationships, like with their mother, or people who represent?
Yes, represent, and the way that we mother other people, and other people in their kind of parental situations. You just kind of notice, if you think back about the last 4 months since mid-December-ish.
Right.
It's been a lot, for me anyways, about mothers.
Yeah. Well, this is when your mom, there's a couple of people I know that their moms crossed over during that period.
And it's also about dealing with estates. not specifically mother's estates, but my goodness, that's exactly what the situation I've had. So inheritance and jobs left over unfinished, disposing of, in looking after the beneficiaries, all those things have been kind of issues that perhaps many people will have some kind of identification with in some ways, whether people have just been feeling perhaps less nurtured, less nurturing. Things have been, kind of not working out for the parts of our lives where we get our nurturing.
So is this like with the planets doing this, is this to support us in looking at where we have these things and helping us to heal it? Or is that what you mean when this is happening? Yeah. It brings it up, and then we're supported in dealing with it. Stuff that we haven't dealt with. So some people might, if they don't have any issues, they wouldn't have the problem. If they never, if they had really healthy relationships, that maybe they wouldn't even notice it? Or does everybody kind of notice it?
Well, it's my experience that people really notice it because, our mothers do the very best they can, but, it's really hard to have that perfection in parenting on planet Earth,
Yes.
Even, the very best mothers, circumstances beyond their control can really affect children. And so those kind of things come to our memory, our maturity. They come to be looked at and remember and looked at as adults. And things around children can happen too, where, we really get a chance to improve nurturing or to review how we interact with people around us in nurturing ways or non-nurturing ways. We get a lot of experiences where people who rub us up the wrong way, inappropriate behaviors around, because it's our mothers who basically model relationship behaviors for us, in the.
Well, that's usually the first, for most people, that's the first relationship, the primary. So then everything else kind of gets formed from that with that belief system.
So what we get is, if we've had a codependent relationship with a parent, or if, families have habits of triangling, guess what? We do that with our relatives, with the people we work with, and we really can get, things can get up our nose when we have this kind of thing because there's no extra to go around. There's Jupiter is the generous sign, and when it's retrograde, that generosity is not so evident. So oftentimes we have issues with money as well because our relationship of abundance also is learned very usually from our parents, from our relationship with our mother, things withheld or, different circumstances of our growing up that were taught us to be afraid about our abundance, things like that. And all aspects of our life are reflected in our relationship with our parents because, of course, like you said, they're our model, they're our first teaching. So this is a very powerful retrograde, and this is a really powerful 10 days as we whiz through whatever lessons we've had, whatever's come up, whatever healing, whatever personal growth has come to us in the last few months, specifically with parenting. And specifically with the nurturing part of our parenting, memories, cancer also has a lot to do with history and how we perceive our history. Sometimes we have had some experiences lately where we've had to revisit some of our treasured memories or some of our least loved memories, or, actually things can come up where kind of sibling rivalries can come up and how they were handled in the family, how the parents dealt with them, favoritism or scapegoating, whatever happened in our family, we've got a chance to revisit it and look at it hopefully as adults and to get a different view of it and a healing from it. And this last 10 days is a review that shows us what we have advanced in, but also what is going to happen probably in the next year between the Jupiter direct, our experience of going through Cancer, which is that June, July time, and how Cancer shows up in our astrology charts, how Jupiter shows up in our astrology charts. And also, oftentimes there'll be some, because of the Saturn retrograde that's going on, continuing, we may be having some experiences of issues between our parents, or some flashes of insight about things that happened in the past between our parents and us.
So that part will go on, the Saturn aspect of it will go on for how long?
The Saturn goes direct August 2nd.
Okay, and then, but so what do we expect then after this 10-day period? This 10-day, as we're finishing up the Jupiter retrograde, this is our opportunity to finally sort of clean house, look at some of this stuff,
and we can take note and really look at what we're not handling well, and we can resolve to put some practice time into that, because whatever we're not handling well is going to come around again. And if we can look at these things with consciousness, self-responsibility, honesty, we can see, where we've gotten some tripping up in our life, some things that we can spend some time on healing, even though it's not retrograde still.
Right. So this is a time to be the adult, look at our lives with the support of this energy to make some resolutions, so that after this 10-day period, how will it look? Will we notice that if we've done it, if we do our work?
Yes, we'll notice, and what we'll notice immediately is a very quick recap, because 10 days, is a pretty quick recap of both the 4-month retrograde period and the 12-year Jupiter cycle and our life. It's very quick. So we're going to be whizzing through stuff, kind of feeling a little, if we're not paying attention, we can kind of trip over our feet now. It's a good time to carefully move through space and time and really pay attention, because this 10 days is pretty important. And if we're not paying attention, not only can we trip ourselves up, but we can miss a fabulous opportunity to just gently and wisely go, oh, look at that. No time to beat ourselves up. This is not the time to say, oh my God, I'm terrible and look what I've been doing. That's not helpful. But it's a really, really powerfully good time to just notice, oh, look, I noticed this is a pattern in my world. Oh gosh, I wonder what it is that, since I'm the one that it keeps happening to, what am I doing here? And how can I get free of this? And it's amazing, because this is a powerful time of releasing. It's
right.
The best possible time to actually make some very powerful changes.
I love that.
Year,
I love knowing that.
Yes.
This is what's supported, and then when you can kind of, I love the way you're bringing the clarity about what's going on, so that people can know, oh, like a lot of times that's all it is. All it takes is that awareness.
That's right.
That's
right. That's kind of why I wanted to get this out there and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because isn't it great to make use of these openings? Now, another thing that's coming up on the 18th of April is while Jupiter's gone direct, we have Pluto going retrograde. So people can kind of look forward to something kind of explosive happening in their personal world. The 18th or the 19th, the 20th, as we start moving into Pluto retrograde, something that takes us back to our childhood. And
is explosive a good thing or not a good thing?
Well, it can be kind of oversetting. It can be kind of a little upsetting, because it takes us back a long way. things that we thought we dealt with, and things that we have actually healed, but we are kind of stripped down to the bone in some of our basic early kind of responses, things that we've learned better, but we will have, probably short tempers. People around us will have short tempers because everyone goes through this.
Will we see something on a global level around that date, do you think?
It's quite possible, yes. Although, it's hard to, you don't want to put too fine a point on it.
No. Just an awareness.
Yeah. It's kind of a volcanic energy, but it is a retrograde, which kind of restrains, holds back. So it's probably less likely to have a volcano, but it's the inner world that starts seething as we return to some issues that may not already be healed, or some things that still rankle and need to be looked at as adults and let go of. It's like...
Well, we have had some earthquakes lately.
Yeah, those kind of things.
So that's kind of an inner rumblings.
Definitely. Yeah, and so with this Saturn energy ongoing, there's still the energy of the patterns with our family. Saturn is the energy of nose to the grindstone, and in Saturn retrograde you get more of it. The nose gets sharpened to a pretty quite a point at this time.
And also, sorry, Debbie, but what I was wanting to say with people who, when they look at that and the dynamics of the family, sometimes you don't have a clear example or clear situation. Actually, you've worked out your stuff with your actual family, but you might be seeing it transferred. It might be in the workplace. You might be having, if you look at it, the relationship you have with a coworker might be exactly that guy's just like my brother, or just like my sister, or just like my parent, my mother, and you find yourself doing the dance. I had that happen to me more than once, where I had a relationship with somebody that, when I really became aware of it, she was even using the same words as my mother, and it was like, whoa, this is wild. The same manipulation tactic or whatever. And at first I wasn't aware of it, but once I became aware, then I could change how I was so that I could heal the stuff with my mother, but also with myself.
Exactly. If there's anything left in the situation, or even just as a reminder of the learning, yes, things will come up with all the people around us. I mean, our partners, our children, our colleagues. Yeah, it's all there. And it's quite amazing how it resonates through all of our world. And it's kind of humorous, when we can stop and take a little more distant view of it, like, oh, look at that. Yeah, like,
yes,
the humor of having a colleague using the same language as your mother would have. I have to say, I kind of noticed it myself in my workplace, of some people doing some dances, misunderstandings coming up, and things where people's kind of their addictive behaviors, because a lot of addiction comes from our family relationships. We inherit them, we learn them from our parents. And, I'm seeing how, for myself, some things around work and abundance, and it's like, oh, I thought that, I had figured my way around this, and indeed I haven't.
Right.
But I can, the test is, how quickly can I move past it? How quickly can I see the pattern and avoid getting into the real trauma of the past behaviors and move forward?
The key for me too is when, a lot of times when people hear this, they think, oh, sure, another thing, I'm the one, it's all about me, I'm all wrong, blah, blah, blah. But the truth, if you really look at it, it's not about blame here. It's about realizing you are the constant in your world. You're the only one who's always there. So stuff that's going on around you is actually like life's going to happen, but it's about how you're going to see it. Because like that woman could have used the same language with someone else and it didn't trigger anything in them. In my example, whereas I didn't realize it at first, but once I recognized, hey, that's exactly the same words that my mother used, not all, the tone, the whatever. So in that situation, I'm the constant. I mean, she didn't even know my mother. So we can kind of know that this isn't about saying you're wrong. It's about saying here's an opportunity to heal your wounds.
It's freedom.
Kind of. It's freedom, right?
And the great thing is that we are the constant in it. The wonderful thing is we're the ones who can shift, because good heavens, if it's somebody else's behavior, we have no power over that. We have no way to make that change. And if it's about us, our part of it is about us, then we can. And thank goodness it's about us, because otherwise we'd be powerless.
Exactly. That's a very good point, just knowing that this is an opportunity. So, okay, so we've got, basically this is April 1st, today, 2015, and so we've got 10 days left of Jupiter in retrograde, which will support us to clean up some of our old stuff. And then Saturn continues on for another until
August 2nd,
August 2nd. And that also is supporting this similar, except it's more of the parental issues that are coming up. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's Saturn really is where, we have to really just take a stand with ourselves that whatever happens, we're just going to go through with it, because if there's something wants to be resolved, and oftentimes we don't know what it is. There's some kind of behavior or blindsidedness that we're just not getting, and it's like, okay, enough, but it isn't enough. It just keeps happening more, because it's not just getting back to our highest learning. It's not just getting the lessons that we already learned. Saturn always wants us to learn something more, to find more freedom. And freedom, we've always learned that we get more freedom from more personal growth, more, putting our back into it. Those things that we have worked hard to overcome or to gain have the most meaning for us and the most empowerment for us. And Saturn is determined that we are going to learn the message, learn the task fully and completely, so that if we need to use that knowledge, we're going to be able to do it well.
Well, isn't Saturn just the great teacher? Just such a loving teacher, wanting to get the most out of us.
The great thing about Saturn is that when we do learn well, when we do accomplish it, when we pass the test, there's a great reward.
Nice.
So it's not always an outer reward. It may be something intrinsic or something, a gift of ourselves, but it can also be something, abundance. It can be, moving to a new and better job, or, something kind of giving way and finishing. But there's no skimping. There's no getting out before the job is completely very well done.
Well, and you know what? I think that's awesome, because really when you do that, you'll find yourself, expanded, and, having a new skill, a new quality that you didn't have before, which is a pretty nice reward as well.
Yes. Yeah, and sometimes, we think that, I do know how to do this, but we need to learn more of it. We need to use the skill in order to move out of some old problem, or we need to use the skill to create something new in our life. It's about using it. It's about practical application. Saturn is all about practical applications.
Well, like going to school and learning the theory and then actually putting it into practice.
That's right.
So,
That's
wow,
right.
that's fantastic. So, is there anything else you feel that you'd like to share about this specific topic, Debbie, or are we wrapping this up?
I guess just, recognizing that Pluto's going retrograde, as I said before, on the 18th. So we have actually from the 11th to the 17th, where we only have one planet retrograde. And just to put retrogrades into perspective, is every time the Earth orbits the Sun, we pass basically all the planets. So planets are going retrograde and going direct all the time. And each year, we pretty well, as far as I know, there's always. And of course, what are retrogrades? Retrogrades are the relationship between Earth and another planet. Because none of the planets actually, go backwards.
Right. It just,
Everything is having a steady orbit around the sun, but in relation to how the Earth closer to the sun or than the outer planets, or further from the sun from the inner planets, it has a perceived backwards motion in relationship to the Earth as we pass planets in their various orbits, their various unique and different orbits around the sun.
right. But they have an influence on the Earth and on us being on the Earth.
Yes, it does, because then as we pass them by, it's like a rubber band catches, and anything that we haven't resolved that is in the influence of that planet, it comes up, and we may as well, if we can look at it with attention, awareness, forgiveness, self-care, we can really make some big strides in healing and empowering ourselves into more freedom and less reactivity.
Nice.
More responsiveness and less reaction.
I like it. I like it. That's a fantastic way of looking at it and being supported. I really want to thank you, Debbi, for exploring the blueprints of our lives with us and with regard to these planets and their influence on us. And until next time, we are going to do this again when we have other astrological or other information that Debbi's getting to share with you. So just check back on the previous shows that we did on this particular year, on the Chinese year. We've got several shows on that as well that you might be interested in. I just love exploring with you, Debbi. Thank you so much for your time. And for everyone else, take care. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.